Well, good afternoon or good early evening to some of you. It's me, Joseph McClendon III, and I am excited to be here with you. First off, thank you for taking this time to be with me and allowing me this opportunity to pop into your world just for a moment and share with you something that's very dear to my heart, as you may know. And I'm not going to assume that everybody knows who I am, so I'll share with you a little bit about myself here in a second. But this is powerful presentations, the art of powerful presentations. And I made a little video earlier, invited a bunch of you here. And so I'm going to start off by saying, grab a pencil and paper and to write some things down, because if you know me, I never do anything without giving you something to do. I'm going to give you some information, but then also something to do, because I firmly believe in two things. I believe in several things, but the two most important with regard to interacting with people and sharing with people things. Number one, never, ever, ever teach theory, meaning don't teach something that you don't do yourself or you haven't experienced yourself. And then number two is to always leave some sort of action item so that people can get the result or get something from what you're giving them. And so I'm going to have you do something outside of here. I'm going to share with you some things, and I'm going to give you somewhat of an assignment or something that you can do to increase your effectiveness on stage. So I'll start off by saying that for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joseph McClendon III, and by profession, I'm a psychologist, and I help people get over fears and phobias and emotional challenges. And for those of you that do know me, I had a practice in Los Angeles for many, many years where I help people get over some pretty traumatic things. But I'm a neuropsychologist, and what that means is, very short description is, number one, I don't medicate, and then number two, I do it in a shorter amount of time. I practice something called the neurosciences, which that's NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, neuroassociative conditioning, and all of the neuroscience practices, if you will, that help people get to that stage or get results much, much quicker. As traditionally when I was in college, they taught us that when you come to see somebody, if you have a fear of dogs or fear of heights or something like that, you're going to lay on my couch, we're going to talk to you for a while, and 6 months, maybe a year's time, we help you with your problem. And I got very, very proficient in helping people get over that in one visit, if you will. So that's what I do professionally, or have done professionally. I retired from that a while ago. I taught at the University of Southern California for several years, 7 years to be exact, and taught leadership and taught presentation and re-engineering to the EMT department. But by trade, the thing that I enjoy the most and the thing that I'm the most passionate about is I'm what's known as an ultimate performance specialist. And again, all that really means is I do seminars and workshops and live interventions and one-on-one coaching, kind of a high-end life coach, if you will. And I work with millionaires and billionaires and movie stars, Academy Award winners and Grammy winners and so on and so forth. And I share all of that stuff with you, not to brag or to boast, but for two really important reasons. Number one, again, what qualifies me to be talking to you about what I'm going to talk to you about, because I'm in front of at least 5,000 people every single month, and sometimes much, much more, and in presenting to people. And so the second reason is because I want you to know that I don't, as I said before, I don't teach theory. This is something that I do and I enjoy, and people are continually asking me, Joseph, how do I do what you do? And that's a big, broad question, big, broad answer. So I'm going to share with you some of those answers here today, and again, give you some things that you can do for yourself. And I'm also going to say straight up that I'm not assuming that you want to be in front of people, in front of the stage, and presenting to crowds and crowds of people, or that you want to be a speaker at all. This is for everybody. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to talk to you about something that is the most powerful tool that you have, as you'll see here in a moment, and it is for whatever you do, whether you do sales, whether you're a parent, which a lot of people are, whether you just interact with people, relationship, whatever. Your ability to present makes all the difference in the world. So this is not, this is for everybody, every single human being. And again, the reason I'm here is because I'm at that stage in my life and in my career that I want to give back, and then B, I want to create a legacy, if you will, and create a community of people that I can actually, pass on the things that I do. Said differently, I have a lot of events. I can work every weekend if I want, and I don't want to. I'm actually tapering off a little bit, and I enjoy doing the large events. Some of you know that my business partner is Anthony Robbins. I work with him a lot, so I'm working quite a bit, and there's a lot of work out there in that field. So I want to create a community of people and a group of people that I can pass some of those things on and train some people. And all of this, at the end of this, I would like the opportunity to share with you something that I'm excited about doing. And should you decide to take us up on it, I look forward to working with you. So I'm going to jump right into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to some slides so you won't see my face here for a moment. And then I'll be back with you. And by the way, I wanted to also share with you, in the chat box there, if you have questions anywhere along the line, please write down your questions. I'll answer the questions towards the end, but please write them down and please type them in. I have somebody here, a team of people that are working with me that are going to take those questions, and I'll answer your questions as we go on. So, as you said before, and by the way, I have several businesses, and one of them is, one of my companies is called Pro Sequences, and I want to introduce you to this word, and the word is the opposite of consequences. Consequences, obviously, are the negative or unfortunate things or bad things that happen from poor decisions and poor activities and procrastination, hesitation, and things like that. As a result of those things, we wind up being in the negative. But pro sequences, obviously, are the results or the outcomes of positive or right behaviors, great decisions, and things that we do when we're setting up for something to happen that we want to happen, the preferred thing to happen. So this company is called Pro Sequences, and it is the science of going further, faster. I continually ask people, do you want what you want sooner rather than later? And of course, the obvious answer and the overwhelming answer is always sooner. I always say, why wait? Get what you want sooner rather than later. And I say that because, and as altruistic as this is going to sound, this is my foundational belief about, because, as we live right now, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that the world is having some challenges everywhere. And those of us that dare to dream while the rest of the world is having a nightmare, and they truly are. Again, we not only stand to inherit the things that we desire and the things that we work for, but we're going to be the shining examples for other people, the rest of the world, the masses, to do the same. Because it's by example, and it is by what we do and what we show the world that other people feel like they can as well. And I truly believe this, at the risk of sounding too noble, and together we're going to make this place a better place. Because I love my country, whatever country you're listening from. I hope you're as loyal to your country as I am to mine. But whatever it is, I love my country. But wherever you live, whatever you do, it's not going to be politics. It's not going to be my government. It's not going to be your government that changes things. It's going to be brave people like yourself, like ourselves, that have the guts to step up and do something different, and to step out and be entrepreneurs or be business owners or be leaders and be people that step up and actually interact with people in a way that causes them to take more action. And by the way, that's what this is all about. This truly is the difference between presenting, and the difference between that and speaking, if you will, is vast. Now I'm going to share with you what that is in a moment. But the main thing is that presenting causes people, allows people, impacts people, and causes them to take action and do something. So the second thing is the spoils always go to those, or ultimately go to those who they don't just choose to do the mental, physical, and emotional work. And by the way, let me segue out for a second. It's always, always, always the work that produces the results. That is what produces pro sequences. With what I'm going to share with you now, it's not just understanding it. It's not just believing it. It's not just saying that I'm going to do it. And it's not just saying that I will do it and that you choose to do it. Because you know as well as I do, most people, self included, we've decided to do something in the past. We've had willpower to do it in the past. And I say willpower is a myth, but we don't do it. What gets results are those that actually do the work consistently over and over and over again. That's the law. That's what's got you results and everybody results. So I'm going to start right here. Why are you here? Why'd you show up on this call? Why did you show up on this webinar? You know, I'm not so arrogant as to assume that you showed up because it's me, Joseph McClendon III. I would love to think that. But quite honestly, you're here for something else. Now, this next photograph, I'm going to use this a few times. This is my dog, Winston. And this is the look that no matter where I go, when I ask that previous question, what do you want? This is the look that people give me. So from here on out, this look, this dog, my dog Winston, I love my dog. He's the greatest dog in the world, but he's clueless most of the time. And most people are clueless why they're here. And take this with a grain of salt or take this the right way. And that is that most people believe that they show up somewhere for something, but the reality is what they're there for is something quite different. And so here's my belief of why you're here, is so that you can have more impact, to create more money, more things, more experiences, so that you can contribute more and live a better and happy life and feel better and feel happy. Now, obviously, that's going to be to your own specific with what you want, whether it is, because some of you may say, no, I'm not here for money. No, I'm not here for things. I'm here for spirituality. That's experiencing. But we're all here to contribute. So you can add to that, but let's just do what I call lowest common denominator. Let's kind of all agree that everything that you want is right around this word called impacting. Because going somewhere and sitting on a mountain and meditating for the rest of your life and being by yourself, that even people that do that, and I know a few that do and have done that, they still are doing it in the end. They want to impact people and impact other people's lives as well. So if we can agree, and if you disagree, that's fine. Go ahead and shoot me a question or a comment back on the chat line and let me know. That's fine, and let me know. But if we can agree that that's what we're here for, I want to show you how to create more impact. And again, more impact in whatever it is that you do. Again, if you're in front of 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, 1,000 people regularly, that's cool. But if not, if it's just one person, still it's impact. So the reality is, here's my organizing principle behind that. Anytime that you're interacting with one or more persons / people, you have the unique privilege and the opportunity to impact their lives for the greater good. What does that mean? Anytime you open your mouth, and by the way, this also includes social network and emails and any of that stuff, anything that you do, you have the opportunity. And I want you to look at it that way. This is my true belief. It is the opportunity to step into somebody's lives and make a difference for the positive. Now, not everybody believes that, but in terms of impact, what I'm going to share with you, I'm going to ask you just for a little while, just to take this on as your belief as well. What if every time you approach somebody, you automatically defaulted or went into the mode that you're going to impact their lives for the positive? If you're on this phone and if you know me and if you know what we do and what I do, then that's probably your belief as well. So no matter what it is that you do. So if a species is defined by the tools that it uses, then take a look at these examples here for a moment. This is the South Pacific sea otter. He's adorable. But this little creature, by the way, is very, very intelligent. And it is on the food chain, if you will, or the hierarchy of animals, if you will, because of the tools that it uses. This animal has a brain that tells it to go get rocks. It swims down and grabs rocks, and then swims down and grabs abalone and seashells and sea creatures and things like that. And it uses that rock to smash them open and eat the meat out. He uses it as a tool. Second is this crow, the New Caledonian crow. This animal goes and gets cactus quills, the quills off the cactus that look like a needle, and then goes around and finds worms inside the tree bark and things like that, and pokes the worms and skewers them and pulls them out, and then he eats them. He uses that for a tool. And of course, monkeys, obviously chimpanzees, and they even make weapons. They use tools to build other tools and to make things. And then there's this guy, the North American bloated couch potato. And of course, look at the tool in his hand. And by the way, this is, I joke around about it, but this is unfortunately where a lot of people spend most of their time, a great deal of their time that they could be doing something else. Oh, don't get me started. And of course, there is the common mated pair. And I joke around about this, but I'm getting to a point. And of course, this is how we'd rather see ourselves, happy and healthy and productive and all white. I meant dressed in white. And of course, but the reality is, which tool best defines us as human beings? Because we are presumably the highest on the food chain, on the hierarchy of humans, of animals on this planet. We use more tools than any other human being. And how can we use that tool to massively impact and quickly improve our lives and other lives for the better? Most people are looking at me like that again, and that's that look. That's Winston again. The reality is, some people say, well, the greatest tool that we have is a smartphone, and I'm not necessarily going to argue with you. I'm going to say that that tool that we have is the tool that is the one that all of us have in our hands all of the time. But is it the most valuable tool and most important tool that we have? Not necessarily. My belief is, answer this question: what do all these amazing people have in common? Of course, I put myself in there as well. But the reality is, you look at it, you say, okay, well, they're all gifted, they're all talented, and they all have a message, and they have all of those things. And the answer is absolutely yes, they're all famous. But here is what I suggest to you. Here's what they have in common. Our voice. That's what they have, is a voice. And everybody, remember what I said before, this is something unique that nobody can compete with you on this. Your unique voice. And I'm not just talking about the tone of their voice and so on and so forth. Their voice with regard to these three things. Number one, the voice, meaning how you project that voice, how you get that to other people, the words that you use. And notice I didn't say presence. I wrote it in red for a reason. Presence. I'll explain to you what that means here in a moment, but what you present, the presence, the gifts that you have for other people. And again, these are my beliefs, and I'm answering the question and commenting about what people always ask me, because people ask me all the time, Joseph, how do you do what you do? And how can I do that as well? How do you impact as many people as much as you do? How do you do so well financially from that as well? How do you get people to do things that other people can't? How do you have that presence on stage? And the answer is three things: my voice, my words that I use and the way that I use those words, and the gifts that I give to other people, how I present those gifts to other people. And that's what I'm going to share with you as well. And by the way, I'm going to go over because this is not to take away from anything. I've got some unbelievable friends that give speaker boot camps, and they're awesome, and I encourage you to take them. They're awesome. That's not necessarily what this is about. This is obviously going to encompass some of those things, but the reality is, this is not just a boot camp. This is digging deeper. This is about you, your own personal you. Because, all around, and by the way, like I said, several of my friends give boot camps, and I actually speak at a lot of those as well. But the gift that I'd like to give you is something quite a bit deeper than that. So the reality is, your voice allows you to create awareness, intention, meaning when you have an intention for somebody, it causes them to feel something, and it causes you to feel something, and it causes you to be a certain way. It also creates urgency in other people, passion in other people, in yourself and others. And I really want you to pay attention to this last piece: in yourself and others. Your voice is the thing that's going on, and it never, ever, ever, ever stops, even when you go to sleep. Your voice is continually talking to you. And this is critical with this last piece, because yourself first and then others. If you don't, and like I said, I'm going to go over the number one, or the 5 key things that most speakers / presenters, if you will, miss and get wrong. The biggest mistakes that they make. And I'm also going to give you 5 gifts and things that you can use right away. But I want you to start, and I want you to understand that it's all about you and then them, you and then them. If you don't impact yourself in such a way that causes you to be a certain way on stage, whether you have stage fright, whether you get nervous, whether you are overconfident, because I see that a lot, or whether you're interacting with people, because we've all done this. We've all been in situations where we've seen a speaker, or we've been quote unquote presented to, and we've fallen asleep, we've lost interest, we've decided that this person is actually trying to take advantage of us, or whatever. And that kind of stuff is indicative of speakers versus presenters. So again, my outcome, there is something that has to be done with you, to you, about you, before you ever hit the stage, and then you can impact others. Please be clear on that, because that is what the P factor is all about. Presentation factor. Here's the difference between presenting and speaking. Speaking, obviously, and both of them are noble, and I'm not putting anybody down that is a speaker, and I encouragement. And by the way, there is so much work out there. There's so much opportunity out there for speakers, for presenters, for people, whatever it is, corporate. Whether it is you do your own seminars, whether it is you're interacting with people, whatever it is, sales, whatever. There's so much out there. I turn it down left and right. And if this is something that you're excited about doing, then get the edge on other speakers if you do it. Because speakers, it's a practice of impacting people with your words. And it truly is. I see it over and over again. I have the distinct privilege, and I really do consider it a privilege, of presenting and speaking and being on stage with some pretty amazing people around the world for the past, almost 3 decades now. And I see people that are unbelievable speakers, if you will. They're still backstage, or they hit the stage with notes, and they hit the stage with cards. They're backstage, they're freaking out, they're nervous, and so on and so forth. People that that have been my idols for a long time. And you don't want that to happen, because that means you're relying on your words and not everything else, and the words that are being said to you inside your head that causes you to be a certain way. You should be able to speak in front of 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 people as easily as you speak in front of your child or your lover or your mate or your best friend. But words are only a small part of it. Presenting, on the other hand, is the art of empowering people and impacting people and causing people with your words, your thoughts, your energy, your physiology, meaning your body, to the point that they take action and bring a vision to fruition. Now, let me explain what that means. The whole you, everything about you, when you show up somewhere, look, I know there's 2 things I want to point out, just to let you know with regard to how you are being causes people to feel and be impacted. We've all had this experience. You're in your car and your windows are rolled up and you feel somebody looking at you. And you look over, and sure enough, there they are looking at you. You felt them looking at you, or vice versa. You see an interesting, maybe attractive person in another car. Windows are rolled up. Your music is blasting. Your air conditioner's going. And through the glass and 30 feet of distance, they feel you looking at them, and they catch you looking at them. This is a very, very real thing, and one of the things I'll cover when we meet, but there's a very real thing with regard to transference of energy. And I don't mean that in like unicorns and California airy fairy stuff. It's a very, very real thing. That energy can be utilized to impact people as well. So your words, your thoughts, your energy, your body, everything that you're being causes people to feel a certain way even before you meet them. And this is critical that you understand this. And this is the magic, if you will. And I want you to know, I didn't just make all of this stuff up. I've had some unbelievable teachers, and more specifically, some unbelievable experiences that allowed me to bring this stuff out in myself, and now to be able to teach it in other people. Some of you know this, that one of my biggest experiences with regard to presenting and impacting people was I had the privilege of following some pretty notable people, one of them being my mentor, Tony Robbins. And when he gave me the opportunity to speak in front of his crowd of people. But when I got in front of them, they didn't know that I was going to be there. They thought it was going to be him, and they weren't that kind to me right away. I could see it right away, and it made me feel a certain way. So I had to instantly tap into what I want to teach you to bring that and change that in the moment, and win them over, for lack of a better term. Another example of that as well is my dear, dear friend. His name is Terry Schmidt, who actually brought me on board at UCLA several years ago. Gosh, it's almost 15, almost 20 years ago now. And my course was called Re-Engineering Yourself for the Next Century, and Presentation and Leadership. And I was speaking to engineers, and this is no put down on engineers. And I will also say that engineers have a level of, how can I delicately say this, a level of perfection and intelligence, and I'm skirting the issue. They're really quite anal, quite honestly. And here were these men and women, which, by the way, they weren't just, only 20% of them were postgraduates, so most of them were adults, 30s, 40s, and 50s, who didn't necessarily want to be there. And they also were kind of looking at me as, oh, who's this guy? And so they didn't particularly care for me right in the very beginning. So I had to utilize what I teach to, I use the word win them over, but more specifically to cause them to react. And very, very quickly, my course became number one in that school or in that department for several years. As a matter of fact, I did my first semester and I was done. I said, this is great, and I got it. It looks great on my resume, and I was ready to be finished with that. But they said, well, listen, your course does well. Would you keep coming back? So they kept inviting me back for 7 years after that. And I share that with you because, again, this tool, this ability to impact people and present to people automatically allows you to default to a place that causes people to react and respond to you in a favorable way so that you have pro sequences. So here's organizing principle number 2. Life is much simpler than we've been led to believe. Even as complicated as all of this that I'm saying may sound, it's really quite simple. It really is. And the simplicity, I prefer, as I said, going further faster. And when you do that, the simplicity, the simplistic standpoint of going after something simplistically is a whole lot more effective than the school of hard knocks and going through intricacy and all of those things. I prefer in getting right down to it. This is simple, not necessarily easy, but definitely simple. So, further faster now is the name of the game. Getting to the place to where you can be that much, much quicker. So the reality is, here's the 5 biggest mistakes that speakers make in general. This has just been my observation and in teaching this over the many, many years. And by the way, I've had the privilege of teaching and impacting and presenting presentation skills to several different companies in corporate world, not to the least of which being Jet Propulsion Laboratory and NASA and lots of different corporations all over the place who have to do presentations to people in order to sell their wares, if you will. And one of my expertises, for lack of a better term, is sales. But sales is just presentation as far as I'm concerned. So here's the number one thing. Most people, the biggest mistake is that they forget the personal, the physical, and the emotional preparation. And here's what that means. Most people will go, I have my PowerPoint or my keynote, and I'm ready to go. And they may do, a couple things before they hit the stage. And remember, all what I said is for you and for them in that order. But their own personal preparation, meaning their own identity, what they believe about themselves, what they believe they can do and should do, would do, their own identity, how they feel about themselves, as goofy as this may sound, is huge. Absolutely huge. And it can go the other way because most of us might think that, okay, well, you might be thinking that, Joseph, you may be saying that if we don't have the confidence in ourselves or if we're insecure or we need more self-esteem. Yes, that's true. But there are lots of people that have an abundance of confidence to the point that their arrogance shows through and people pick up on that stuff. So the work that needs to be done on oneself is critical. And I'm not just talking about right before you go on stage, although that is one of the things that is important, but I'm talking about the weeks and months before you do. The preparation, the tools that you have and practicing those tools to the point that it becomes unconditional. Psychological, meaning how you think. Psychology is just a big word for the consistent thought patterns that you have. I always use the word default, but what do you default to when you think about doing a presentation? I see people, listen, constantly that are so nervous, that are so either overconfident or underconfident or anything in between, and they don't really have it together when they go to the stage. And this is critical because oftentimes people will feel like, well, yeah, I got this and I'm fine with it. But I watch it over and over again. I can see somebody confident on stage and still people feel like, so what in that presentation? And that emotional preparation, all of those things are important. If you don't do those things, I can guarantee you, you're at the very least not going to be able to present at your very best. Second thing is pre-stage audience prep. How do you prepare your audience? Yes, what do you do to them? How do you remember what I said about seeing somebody from a car away and they feel you? What do you do to prepare them? Most people, it is nothing. It's just like, okay, well, I did my homework and I have, this demographic of people and so on and so forth, but what do you do to them? How do you impact them before you even walk on stage? It's a science. It's not just airy-fairy stuff. It's a science that you do. And I want you to remember back what I said. How you show up, you impact people even before they see you. There is a ritual that I've gone through. There's something that I've taught myself and I teach other people to do before you hit the stage. that causes them to feel a certain way. It's called marking your audience, that causes them to respond a certain way. Number three, presenting or speaking and not presenting, talking at people. You may know your material. You may know what you're going to do. You may have your jokes here and so on and so forth. But if you're speaking to them and not giving them something, giving them a present, not just your presence. That's this stuff before. Your presence is preparing yourself. But what you give to them, what you cause them to think, feel, and say, and how they respond, goes to the next one. Connection and enrollment dynamics. From the very, very beginning, cause them to do something. Because if you don't, it's going to be 3 times as hard towards the end to cause them to do something, to get them to do something. You understand what I mean here in just a moment. And then lastly, call to action, certainty. I've watched people over and over again give a presentation, and then at the end of it just go, okay, well, if you want to join me, please do, and get timid when you do that. Listen, you've got to have boldness. As I always say, fortune favors the bold. Not arrogance, but you've got to have boldness to cause them and tell them to do something. And again, I use this example all the time, or I use this. If you've seen me present, you know that in that area, from the very beginning, from the time that I hit the stage, I'm causing people to do something. So those are the 5 biggest mistakes. And of course, we don't want to dwell on that, but here's what I call the ultimate presenter must-haves. And these are the things that you've got to have. And I want you to write each one of these down so that you have them. And I'll discuss them here in a moment, because I'm going to tell you what to do or how to use these. Again, all the way back in the very beginning, as I promised you, I don't want to just teach you something and tell you something. I want to give you something that you can use. My biggest wish is that we'll see each other at an event, or I'll have the opportunity to present to you and work with you one-on-one. But if I don't, I want you to take these things and make it better. Because as I said before, in the very, very beginning, it's going to be up to us that make a difference. Your audience deserves to see, hear, and feel you, and see how you function at your absolute optimum now. Not later, not as you work on it, but right now. The very next time you have the opportunity to impact with somebody, you need to show up at your absolute best. And you know that. You're feeling that already inside of you. So here's what you do. Number 1, connect, do something I call the connect-disconnect model. And again, use your iPhone, take a picture of this. I want you to have this, because this is critical. And what that means is connection is a must, but an undisturbed audience will not buy. And here's what that means. If I just give you stuff, if I just give you a gift, and I don't cause you to feel some sort of need, want, urgency, and even pain, then chances of you doing something about it are close to nothing. They truly are. This, by the way, is why so many people in all areas of life mean to do something, wish to do something, desire to do something, commit to do something, and they don't do it. They fall back in on their old habits. And again, the reason I shared all that stuff about me being a neuropsychologist is because I've migrated those tools into this area as well. And I always have into what I do as well. So you got to connect with people. Connection builds trust. Disconnection creates urgency. When you disconnect somebody, I'll teach you a model that causes people to connect. As I said before, you connect with people, then you disconnect with people, then you connect with them again, and they know that pain is there, and you can utilize this as an opportunity, something I call the pleasure, pain solution. And that's the order in which you do things. Cause pleasure, show them what they want, show them exactly how, what they're going to get from things, and then cause them pain, take it away from them. And there's a skill to be able to do that in the moment. And then pleasure again, then pain again, and then give them the solution. And then offer them the present. Because here's what people do. People get up front and they just give them the facts. I watch people do this all the time. Give them the facts. Here's how things are, and so on and so forth. And at the end of a long dissertation or a long speech, then they go, okay, well, here's what I'd like you to do. And it's effective, but it's not ultra effective. Last, levity and humility are pull tools. My saying is, would you rather be dragged kicking and screaming from the things that you are attached to? Or would you allow yourself, or would you love to be gently pulled into the future to the things that you want? And the latter is what you want, and there's a skill to be able to do that. So this is number 1, connect-disconnect model. And so again, at the end of this, I'm going to give you how to do that. But here's what I want you to understand, that you've got to have this. Most people hit the stage and they're not even thinking about this. Secondly, predictive emotional impact learning. Here's what that means. And this is something that you must do. whether you're telling stories or whether you're giving examples or so on and so forth, predictive emotional impact learning. There are things in your whole life that when you learn them in that moment, you'll learn it, you'll know it for the rest of your life. Most of us know exactly where we were when we heard the news about the airplanes crashing into the Twin Towers. Just recently, you know, I'm a musician and I was a huge, and still am, Prince fan. And I know exactly where I was when I learned of his death. I literally cried out at the risk of sounding like a groupie. But there are things in your life that you have learned in a moment that have stuck with you, and that's going to be with you. And you've got to have at least one of those in everything that you teach, everything that you do, every time that you present to somebody, so that they go, oh yeah, and they're anchored to that, and that is their default, and they learn that. Learn it meaning they do something with it. Otherwise, it's just going to be knowledge, and knowledge is not power. You know that as well as I do. We know how to lose weight. We know how to make money, but we don't always do it. Procrastination, hesitation, fear of failure, fear of success, all of those things jump in, and we don't do them because we don't truly learn it. Let me ask you a question. All over the world, there's an unbelievable company called FedEx. So here's the question I have for you. We all know the FedEx logo. Which direction, left or right, does the arrow in the logo point? Which direction? Does it go left or does it go right? If you're in the chat room, point it out. Say left or right. Now, it's a trick question because most everybody is going, what arrow? Most everybody is going, I don't know what you're talking about. It just says FedEx. Okay, so take a look at this because you're about to, if you never saw it before, you're about to remember this for the rest of your life. Look between the E and the X. Between the E and the X. Now, for the rest of your life, every time you see, if you didn't notice it before, now for the rest of your life, every time you see this sign, you're always going to see that arrow for the rest of your life. And I'm using this as an example of predictive emotional impact learning. Because now you've been impacted, because if you don't see it between the E and the X, there's a part of you that's going, oh, that aha moment is an emotional impact learning lesson. Predictive. I knew that I was going to impact you that way if you hadn't seen it before. Now, some of you have seen the 9-dot exercise and a lot of different things, but you must, at some point in your presentation, that's the gift that you're giving to people. That's one of them that you're giving to people. I hope this makes sense to everybody. You give them that gift so the rest of their life, they're paying attention. They're going, oh yeah. And so think about this. Your product, the thing that you're moving, the thing that you want to sell, whether it is something that you're selling for money, whether it's charity, an idea, leadership, whatever it is, when you attach it to this emotion, because you must cause them to feel emotion. Remember what I said earlier? You've got to have connection. Connection is just emotion. Emotion creates connection. And when you do something like this, and by the way, there's a way to set up your stories and so on and so forth and create examples so that you create this predictive emotional impact learning. Next. By the way, I'm going to move along here fairly quickly because I want to make sure that I get in. I don't want to use up all of your time, and I appreciate you still being here. Next, move your body. Motion is emotion, and emotion is connection, and connection is trust. Mark your audience. It's a process of being able to move. I always say to people, every single thing that I do, every place that I step on the stage, everything has a meaning and a purpose. I'm always moving my body. I'm always moving to a certain place, anchoring my audience to a certain stage. Platform skills, meaning it's not just standing behind the podium. If you got to talk for any more than 10 minutes, standing behind a podium is death to you. It truly is. Your audience has seen that over and over again, and they start to check out emotionally and mentally. Lastly, breathe and use your whole body. Use your whole body. It seems simple because people say, well, I always breathe. No, you don't. I see it all the time. I can tell. I can watch people, even in just conversation. When they get nervous or when they get inside their head, they stop breathing. And that restricts you from your thought pattern and being able to, it closes off your energy, as you will learn. Next, move their body. The mind can only absorb as much as the butt can endure. You got to move them. All the time. You've got to move them. You've got to have them doing something. And by the way, I actually been moving you already from the very beginning. I had you doing things. Get a pencil and paper, doing these things and so on and so forth. Obviously, this is a webinar, but the reason you're still with me is because I've got you, I'm doing all of these things, as you're saying, quite honestly, and keeping you breathing and keeping you moving. Require, don't ask. In other words, I didn't ask you to get a pen and paper. I told you, go get a pen and paper. I told you to do these things. And those are the things that cause people to continually move. And this is critical. Again, I'm moving quickly, but I want you to understand these are the things that are important. And then lastly, find and create what they want and why they want what they want. Write this down, take a picture of this, remember this for the rest of your freaking life. I'll explain it as we go. If you don't ask them what they want, if you don't ask them what they want, on some level, they know you don't know what they want, and they will feel like you're trying to get them to do something for you and not for them. You must ask them. Here's my example. Pay attention. If I tell you that if you work really hard, you get up early and you stay up late, you go the extra mile, you do the extra stuff, for the next 1 year, sacrifice your time, your capital, your energy, for the next 1 year, I promise you, at the end of the year, all that you've done, you will be rewarded by me and my son are going to go to Hawaii and have a vacation. Now, how does that feel, by the way? Some of you are getting excited, going, okay, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? And all of a sudden, it's about me. And you're going, screw you. What about me? I want to take my son. I want to take my kids. I want to take my girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. I want to take, I want to go to Hawaii. What about me? Now, I did that on purpose because what happens is this is what cause people to feel. If you don't ask them on some level, remember, they're thinking unconsciously. They're feeling all the time as well. If you don't ask them what they want, and if you don't create it for them, if you give them something that don't give them something that they can agree with, then they're going to feel like, oh, my, this is another sale. When is the sale going to come? So on and so forth. And they check out, and they have that feeling, and they feel leery of you, and they feel disconnected. So the question is, and again, I'm practicing what I preach. I don't teach theory. I did that in the very, very first beginning. I asked you what you wanted. And I did it in a humorous way. That's my way. But then I offered you something that we're going to agree with. And I don't think anybody can look at what I said about impact and say, no, Joseph, that's not what I want. So I want you to know this is just another tool, just another key. Write this down. This is critical. Use the words we and not I all the time. Obviously, you got to use I when you're talking about yourself, but you got to include everybody. And again, in the essence of time, that's what I've been doing the whole time. The very first things, you can go back over and take a look at this. And by the way, we're going to be rebroadcasting this. I'll give you the information on this because I want you to have this. I want everybody to have this so that you can use this. Revisit their why often. I just did over and over and over again so that they get to go, oh yeah, so that they can keep having that release. Remember what I said, connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect, over and over again. Pleasure, pain, pain and solution. I get excited about this stuff. Now, last thing, define who you are to you and to them. Who you are and how you define yourself speaks as loud, or I should say louder, than your words or your message. We've all had this experience. You walk into a room of crowded people, and people stop and notice that you walked in the room. They look in your direction. They have that curious look about them. Conversely, we've all had this experience. We've walked into a room and people could care less. Nobody notices you. What's the difference? The difference is you, how you define yourself, the underlying operating system that runs with you. That conversation about your identity as a presenter, as a person, and all of those things. Until you get that, till it runs automatic of who you desire to be, then at the very least, it's going to be iffy. And if it's iffy with you, if you've got doubts, if you've got uncertainties, inhibitions, and all those things that are your default, it's going to show. And people are going to feel that stuff. It cuts down on your levity. It cuts down on your connection. It cuts down all those things. So once and for all, you need to get that impact and embedded in yourself. If you don't tell them, they don't know what you need them to know about you. If you don't tell them. And I don't just mean your words. I've been saying this from the very beginning. I'm talking about who you are, how you impact people. So that's them. There you are. Now, one of our greatest assets is our ability to connect with others and influence them to take action. So I'm going to have you do something. Hopefully you took pictures of all of those slides. And here's what I want you to do. Now again, I appreciate the time that we spent together here now. And I'll show you something here that we can take it further here in a moment. But right now, I want to give you something to do. And if you do it, things are going to change. And what that means is everything, those are the most important things that I can give you in short order that everybody can understand. And those 5 things that I just gave you. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a presentation, whatever it is. This is your assignment. And by the way, you showed up here because you wanted something. Here it comes. Make a presentation. And go back. Hopefully you took pictures of those, or I'll give we're going to replay this later so that you have those things. And go back and apply those things to your presentation. i.e., go back and ask yourself, what do I do to prepare myself, my physical body, my emotion, before I go on stage? And here's the answer. If you just very, very simply, if you just have a conversation with yourself. Before I go on stage, I say to myself over and over again, I, Joseph McClendon, now command my unconscious mind to give me the power, the wit, the strength, the recall, the love, the tenacity, the power, the impact, everything that I need to give these people 10,000 times more than they came for. So they leave here and they go and do something and they make a difference in their lives and in the world. That conversation that I have with myself, I've had it so many times over and over and over again. Guess who believes it? Me. And if I believe it, guess what? That's what comes out of me. So make your own up. If I get to see you, we're going to make one up together that suits you. But in the short order, that's your assignment. Number 1, go make one of those up. Number 2, in your presentation, ask yourself, how am I causing them urgency? Just go back over those things. I'm kind of getting the signal that I'm running a little long here, and I want to make sure that I get everything in there. So just go back through there and apply all of those things. They're no-brainers. Ask yourself those questions. This homework that you do right now, remember what I said earlier, I want to give you something to do that you do right now. At the very least, for most people, it's going to take your presentation, whatever it is that you do, it's going to take it forward leap years, light years. It's going to take it forward. It's going to grow it magnificently because most people don't look at those things. So please take that and do that. And then lastly, here's what I want you to do. We're going to, I'll share with you how we're going to follow up with this. Here's what I want you to do. Whether it's with me or whether it's with somebody else, get yourself in somewhere where you're starting to learn the skills of being able to do this. If you have this desire, which you do because you showed up on this call to do something, then get as much of the education as you possibly can. And as you do that, listen, to this day, I've been in this field for almost 30 years now. And people would say, well, Joseph, gosh, you're at the top of your game. What do you need to learn? Well, I still got a lot to learn. I still go to seminars, workshops, and things like that because there's always something that I can learn. Our saying is training never stops when you want to have an ultimate life. You truly do. So I'm always learning. So put yourself in that position, whatever it is. I got to be honest with you. Over the years, I can seriously say that I have invested well over $250,000 in seminars and workshops and travel and all that stuff going to do these things. But I can honestly say the pro sequences as a result of that is 50 times over, truly. And I'm not exaggerating, it truly is over the years in doing that. And not only just in financially, but my lifestyle and my ability to be able to impact people and do the thing that I'm passionate about. So having said that, I'd like to share something with you. And that is this. By the way, speakers talk and facilitate, presenters change lives. I love this little picture here. And the reason I show you this is people need you. Hearkening all the way back to the very beginning of this presentation, I said to you that those of us that dare to dream while the rest of the world is having a nightmare, you're not only going to get what you want, but you're also going to impact others. And that's our job. That's the only thing I require of you from this conversation is that whether it's with me or somebody else, you step out and you do something about it. Again, I want to build a community of people. That's my legacy, what I want to do to do that. But whatever you do, make a difference. Make a big difference in people's lives. Whether you're speaking to your local chamber of commerce or your women's group or men's group or children or whatever it is, be your best so that you can present and cause people to take action so that we can make a big difference. People need you. We need you out there. So First off, my question to you is, in my line of work, here's the things that I get to enjoy, and see if this doesn't appeal to you. Traveling first class around the world. Literally, I've been around the world, I think it's 3 times already this year. This year. Traveling around the world first class, there ain't nothing like it. VIP treatment, making a real difference and changing lives, as I said before. And choose when and where and how you want to work. And obviously, as I said to you at the very beginning, I'm at this stage in my life where having crafted it, and you don't have to take as long as I did, by the way. You know, I know people that get started in a very short amount of time, as opposed to, you know, working a regular job, which there's nothing wrong with. But if it's not your passion, then find something that is your passion. And you choose when and how you want to work. Unlimited potential for growth in yourself, unlimited potential in wealth and income and creation. Regardless of how you choose to use it to benefit from it, that's what is up for you. If that appeals to you, I want to share something with you. Remember this, power, or do power, is the key. And what I mean by that is knowledge is not power. You know that as well as I do. You know how to do stuff, but we don't always do what we know. Doing is the key. And so the trick to all that I share with you, and what I'm going to share with you now, is not just telling you to do something, but doing it with you so that you have those results and you show up at your absolute best. Thieves of our dreams are procrastination, hesitation, fear of failure, fear of success, laziness, and complacency. You have done this over and over again, and you know this. And no matter what you say, you're human. We all do that. And if you don't have a default that causes you to step up, get up early, stay up late, and do all this stuff now, not later, then here's what's going to happen. Whether it is your health, your weight, your whatever it is with your life, it's always going to be less than it could be. But if you don't find a way to put yourself in a position that your default is to do the desired thing, to do the thing even though it's hard, and remember, the hard stuff is the short term, then the writing's on the wall, and it's always going to be that way. At the very least, you're not going to go further faster. So having said that, willpower is a myth. It truly is. Saying I will do this, I'm going to think about it, I'm going to do it, that's a myth. And so is motivation, by the way. Motivation, I always say, is just like a warm bath. Or somebody told me this once, I love this. Motivation is like peeing in the bed. You know, it might feel good in the moment, but sooner or later you got to get up and do something about it. So it's just a myth. You got to do something about it. The real truth is activity is power. And activity is different than action, because we've heard this over and over again. Action is power. No, it's not. It's only temporary power. Activity is consistent action over and over and over and over again. Repeated action with emotional intensity until the outcome is received or achieved over and over again. Going to the gym and working out 1 time is action. Going to the gym and working out 10 times is action. Activity is going to the gym for the next 10 months till you walk out sculpted the way that you want to be. Activity is doing the things over and over again, and it's so that it happens automatically. So, having said all that, I want to share something with you that is my passion right now, and it is the thing that I'm doing to further this and to deepen these tools that I've just shared with you. It's something called the P Factor. And the P Factor is, for me, everything that I've learned over the last really 30 years, everything that I've taught, experienced, and condensed into 3 days. And here's what it is. The P Factor is a dynamic 3-day training designed to assist you in creating and developing and delivering your own personalized, powerful, impact-filled performances and events that inspire audiences to empower them to take action. All of the things that I just talked about and more that I'm going to share with you in a second, all of them that we're going to cover in 3 days. And if you've been around me, you know it's not just sitting in your chair. You're going to be doing something. By the time, and I say to you, bring me your worst nightmare. Day number 1, identity development. Remember what I said before. If you don't have this, you're not operating at your absolute best. This is how you walk into a room and people feel you and they know who you are and they feel that. Your identity. Developing an identity for you as a presenter and locking it in your nervous system. Presence and psychology, meaning who you show up as, how you think consistently, what are your consistent thoughts that you give over and over again, influence models, and flow structure, how to influence people and cause them to do something, whether it's sales, whether it's to get up and do something, whatever it is, how to influence them to cause them to do something. Stage fright and nervousness. A lot of people have this. A lot of people say, I don't have it, but it shows, and because they may feel confident, I don't mind working out, I don't care what they feel, but whatever else shows up, that still shows up as nervousness. Humor and levity. That's my thing. I love to do that. You've got to have it at some point. Nobody Nobody wants to just listen to somebody that's just a stiff shirt or a stick in the mud. You've got to be able to, and I don't mean that you have to tell jokes all the time, but you've got to, at the very least, know how to smile at the right time and say the right thing at the right time. Charisma and charm, meaning the best of you so people fall in love with you. Day number 2, content creation, meaning whatever it is that you speak about, whatever it is that you talk about, bring it with you, and we're going to whittle it into and structure it into, sculpt it into something that is going to be something that means something to you and to others. Speech structure and delivery, how you deliver that. Training versus presenting and speeches. There's a difference between doing a training and a presentation. There's a difference between a presentation and a speech and all those things. Knowing those differences is one thing. Doing something about it and structuring yourself and having that in your back pocket is another thing, in your tool belt. Small audiences versus large groups. You know, I say anything more than, anytime you were speaking to one person, that's great, but maybe 50,000, 100,000 people. And by the way, it happens. It's a beautiful thing. Answering questions, fielding questions, when and how to answer those questions. Now, one of the things, I'll share this with you. When I wrote my first book with Tony Robbins, and we had what's called media training, and this is where I learned this. And they sat us down and they said, listen, we're going to ask you some hard questions, because what happened is we had to promote the book on television. And they said, and it was great, because the lady sat down, she was a media trainer, and she asked us questions. And didn't take but 10 seconds before she trapped us. Meaning, she would ask a question, and then because we didn't know how to answer that question, she trapped us into talking about stuff that we didn't want to, and she took us down this whole other road. So you got to be able to answer questions in a way that's going to A, give them the answer, but B, give them the answer that you need them and want them to hear, and not get distraction. Embracing disturbances, because that's what happens, disruptions. People are going to disrupt you all the time. It's so funny. I'm here in the studio here, and there's disruptions all over the place. They're left and right. And when they happen, you got to be able to be back on your mark. So what? You stumble. If you do, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. But when you do, you got to be able to respond. I'm cracking up because my friends here are distracting me right now. Answering questions, as I said before. Logistics, sound, lighting, and visual. All those things are obvious, but they're very important, that they got to be covered. You know, how important is that stuff? It's critical important. And then lastly, day number 3, platform skills. Remember what I said before, anchoring them. Anchoring your audience, knowing where you are on stage, where to move, what to do, when to take breaks, when to do all of those things from the stage are critical. Voice control and projection, how you get it out there. You may have a soft voice. I don't. I got a loud voice. But you may have a soft voice, and your tendency may not be to talk at the top of your voice. And by the way, voice control is also dynamics in your voice as well. When to talk softly, when to get up high, when to get intense, when to talk fast, when to talk slow. All of those things are critical. And by the way, as complicated as this stuff may sound, I make it so easy it's ridiculous. Lastly, language, influencing models. How to influence people with your language, the type of language that you use. I'm not a big curse word user on stage. I may say shake your ass from time to time, but that's about it. Some people use it dynamically. But whatever yours is, learn what yours is and learn when to say it, how to say it. Stage selling from the stage, when and how to do that. Energy control, how to control the energy. Literally, matter of fact, I'm off to Houston here in a couple days, and I will be on stage. I go on stage at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I leave the stage at 10 p.m. in the evening. 99% of the people will stay in that room, stay engaged the entire time. And I have to control my energy as well. It's a long day, but you can do it. And by the way, I'll do that 2.5 days in a row. In my seminars, my workshops, and my retreats, I do it 5 days in a row. I'm not saying that to brag or to boast, but it's a skill. It's an absolute skill. Energy control. And last, event strategies and techniques. How to set your event up. So let me share with you what that means. I'd like to invite you to do something. It's called the P Factor. It's going to be July. It's coming up here very, very quickly, July 14th through the 16th here in Los Angeles, right by the airport. If you're flying in from somewhere, it's a hotel right by the airport, the Westin, really gorgeous hotel. And I want you to come. And by the way, one of the things I'm going to say to you, bring me your worst nightmare. And what that means is, whatever the biggest fear that you have, biggest unresourceful memory that you have, or anything that bothers you, because I'm going to teach you a skill that you get to teach to other people, and you get to use it and have with you to eliminate that. So that by the end of that day, which is day number 2, you won't be able to feel it again. There'll be a point that you're going to go, holy crap, and you did it, not me. It's going to be a skill that you use, that you have. So let me share with you what that means. And by the way, let me share with you what comes along. What comes along with this package that I'm going to share with you is a pre-event kickoff training call, including question and answer. We're going to spend some time, and I want to do this to prepare you before you get to the event. Give you something that you can do when you decide to come. Then it starts as soon as you decide. A pre-event call that we're going to be on the call with questions and answers, interactive with me, and you'll know what to bring to that call to make that happen. That comes along with it as well. Next, something that I call the E Factor. It's a step-by-step hands-on effectiveness training course designed specifically for business and personal growth. It's an online course, and that comes with this package as well, because I want you to prepare. Remember, the work that you do now, the rehearsal that you do now, is what's going to show up with regard to pro sequences. So I want to start you now on doing this. This is a course that I usually, sell at other events. Confidence, certainty, increased productivity, drive, and internal pull. E Factor stands for effectiveness. Now here's what that all looks like. First off, thank you so much for your time in doing this. The P Factor event is the value of this is $2,695. We sell that all day long. That's what we do. The pre-workshop event that I told you about, $525, and the E Factor online course is $595. The value of that, obviously, is $3,515. However, because you showed up here today, and if you really want to make this happen, it's only going to happen here. I have the webinar price is $997. You're saying, what? Yep, that's it, $997, because, and by the way, this is not going to be some big 1,000-person event. We're keeping it small on person because everybody is going to speak. Seating is limited, and we do have VIP seating. I'm going to direct you somewhere and you can go, and with VIP seating with some extra added bonuses that come along with that. But as well, I want to make this easy for you to do and make sure that it's going to happen. So here's what I want you to do. Write this down right now. ultimatepfactor.com/registration. Ultimate P Factor. P Factor is just the letter P, factor.com/registration. All the information is going to be there. Go there, get registered now. It's going to go away very, very quickly, and we're not necessarily going to make this offer again. So make sure that you go and do them. I'm going to give you some time to do that. And by the way, we're going to be giving away some free bonuses and books and things like that as we're there. The second bonus is a public speaking handbook and public speaking exercises that we have as well to have this. So I want to make this, obviously I'm stacking the deck because I want you there. And again, the biggest reason I'm doing this is I want to create, not everybody is going to do this. Not everybody wants to speak in front of people, but we're going to have a certification course that as you have that, then I want to be able to call you and say, what do you speak on? Here's something that I can't do, or here's something, because we're actually creating an actual university that we can send people to do something. So if this appeals to you, here's what I want you to do. In just a couple moments, you can probably go there now while I'm still yakking. Go there now and get yourself registered, because it is going to go away. Take this time to do this. And remember this, life is exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold. So boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. So the last thing I want to say is this. First off, number one, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you. And I'm going to take some questions. My business partner here has lined up some questions for me. But if you have any questions, please write them down. But in the meantime, go get your place right now so that you have it right now. And I look forward to seeing you, because, again, part of the reason why we keep this small is because I want to be able to spend some personal time with you as well. And I'm getting shown that I'm running out of time here. So one of the questions is how to handle stage fright. First off, you got to define what stage fright is with you. First off, stage fright is just this. And by the way, you can tell I got a little comfortable in here as I got off camera. So what? Stage fright is simply this. It is just you focusing on the worst possible scenario. And stage fright must be dealt with before you hit the stage. In other words, that's one of the things that we teach. Obviously, the obvious answer is come see me. I'm going to show you. We're going to do it right then. But I say to people that here's what you must do, is you must rehearse how you're going to be. Get your identity in track first, because here's what ultimately is going to happen. You're either going to continue to deal with it over and over again, or you're going to deal with it enough times on stage that it finally goes away. It's just like riding a bicycle. When you first learned how to ride a bicycle, it was hard. You were nervous and all those things, but you did it over and over again. You fell down a few times, and then you don't have that anymore. You're not afraid of it. It's the same with this. But there are things that you must do. The thing that I had you do with regard to going back and those 5 things that I just showed you, go back and look at them, because you start to build identity. If you have stage fright, you have the identity of somebody that has stage fright. If you have nervousness, you have the identity of somebody that has nervousness. Go back at those 5 things that I said and just go look at them and just go, okay, what do I think about myself? I gave you my thing that I say to myself. I command myself to be that. I say it over and over again. I've rehearsed it enough times. And by the way, I'm going to teach you the difference between rehearsal and practice. Rehearsal makes it happen so much quicker and so much more fun, so that it happens inside of you. So to answer your question, number 1 thing, come see me. Number 2, rehearse it ahead of time. Correlate it. Attach it to the thing that you're the most comfortable with. Screw what everybody says about, imagining somebody naked in the audience. Of course, that's going to make you nervous. That doesn't work. So the name of the game is rehearse it ahead of time. Find things that you're absolutely comfortable with and link them together through rehearsal, doing it over and over again. And I'm seeing here again, I'm running out of time. Let's see if we can take any more questions. Okay. Same question, which was get rid of nervousness, okay? The same thing. Listen, I know this sounds simple. I know this sounds overly simple, but the reality is the only reason people have nervousness and have those things over and over again is because they don't rehearse it. I used to have nervousness so bad. I was a musician for many, many years, and I had stage fright so bad, this is going to be TMI, too much information, that I would literally throw up before every performance. I'd go in the bathroom and hug the toilet before any performance. But guess what? I got rid of that by repetition over and over again, and I still had a bit of it till I learned to do what I'm telling to you, rehearse it off stage ahead of time. Remember the very first thing that I said, the biggest mistake that speakers make is failure to prepare themselves. Preparation is not just before you go on stage. It's the weeks and the months ahead of time that you do that over and over again. It only takes, I'm going to show you how to do something for 10 minutes a day, and in 10 minutes a day that stuff goes away. So listen, I'm running out of time. I've held you here for a long time. Let's see if we got one more question. We got a few of them, but he's going to hand me one more. I'll take this last question, and then I'm going to rock on. Okay, here we go. What do you say to yourself before you go on stage? I'll repeat myself. This is what I say to myself. Use this and make your own. This is what I've rehearsed over and over again. I, Joseph McClendon III, I now command my unconscious mind to give me the power, the wit, the strength, the recall, the love, the passion, the tenacity, the levity, the love, everything that I need to give these people 10,000 times more than what they came for. So that they walk out of here with something that they not only can use, but they're going to use it and do something with it to change their lives and change the world and make the world a better place. Now there's more to it. I say that I believe that life is exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold. And I have the privilege of stepping up. I am a God-guided expression of health, wealth, happiness, and joy for myself and everybody that I have the privilege of seeing. Now, by the way, you can tell all of these things, they're flowing through me. Why? Because I rehearse them. Who believes it? Me. Because I believe it, you're probably believing it as well. So again, remember, impactive learning, emotional, predictive, impact-filled learning, all of those things. So listen, I'm going to raise up Outer. He's handing me more questions, but let me take a list. Giving your energy on stage. Again, come see me, please. Come on down and see this. All these questions, and he's got a slew of other ones, all these questions are all saying the same thing. How do I get more of myself? I hope I've given you something that you can use. I know I have. Take it and use it. Please come see me. Come visit me at theultimatepfactor.com/register. Get any questions that you have answered. Join us. We're going to close this thing up really very, very quickly. And remember this. First off, thank you so much. You've allowed me to do something that I'm absolutely passionate about, something that is my calling, if you will. And I look forward to seeing you this. Remember this, as I said before, life is exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold. So boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. I look forward to seeing you at the top. Peace. I'll see you in the future. Bye-bye.